so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness which creates and animates all things. After years of exploring this awe-inspiring truth on this podcast, I'm super excited to announce that we are now going even deeper down the rabbit hole on the new late-night style consciousness-elevating talk show called Optimistic, which features none other than you, the listeners. Optimistic is taped out of the epic spaceship-esque 8-bedroom property we call the Mystic Manor that myself and the rest of the Optimistic crew now navigate reality from in Venice Beach, California. And you are invited to come experience a Mystic Manor immersion week with us. During your week-long stay, you'll enjoy unique workshops, chef-prepared meals, one-on-one time coaching and consulting with me, and even co-creating magic with me as a guest on both Optimistic and an episode of the Positive Head podcast. When I started this, my aim with these immersive retreats was to facilitate the ultimate spiritual upgrade and tune-up, so to speak, for our guests while providing them with one of the most memorable experiences of their lives. And I'm happy to say that as of this recording, every guest at the end of their trip so far has told me that they have had a profound and transformational experience at the Mystic Manor and that they definitely want to come back. All that being said, we only have a limited number of spots available between now and next July. And as of this recording, about half of those spots are already filled. So if there's any part of you that is screaming, yes, I want to come, I feel like I need to be there, go now and book a slot with me to discuss how we can put our heads together and make it happen at calendly.com/talkwithbrandon. I know for some people, there is also that little voice in their head saying, why not? I can't get off work. I can't afford it, and on and on and on. But, really Henry Ford, I think, said it best. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And I'm confident that where there's a will, there's a way. And I'm personally committed to doing everything in my power, including discounts and payment plans, to get you here if it is something that truly feels like a huge yes for you energetically and like you're meant to be here. Once again, the link to book time to discuss with me is calendly.com/talkwithbrandon. That's spelled calendly.com/talkwithbrandon. All one word, of course. And book in some time and look forward to seeing you soon here at the Mystic Manor.
All right, all you positive heads, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I want to start off with giving a very, very special thank you to Sarah Rusk. Sarah does all of our editing. She is the one who makes sure that you guys have a podcast to listen to. She puts everything together and gets it out on all the different avenues. And she is so incredibly patient with me. I swear I'm constantly giving her extra work to do, and I don't do it on purpose. And she is so patient with me. I'm always making little mistakes and things, and she's just so kind and so loving. And I just wanted to give her a big shout out and a very big thank you from the bottom of my heart, and tell her how much I love her and how much I appreciate her. So thank you, Sarah. You are the best. And I also wanted to thank everyone for being patient with me. I'm going to talk about patience today. It's something that I've been working on lately. And honestly, it's been something that I've been working on my entire life. I haven't been the most patient person in this existence. I've certainly had the experience of impatience. But what's so beautiful is that so many people are patient with me, and I'm so grateful for it. Like Brandon, for instance. So I want to thank him too. He is so patient with me. There's so much work that needs to get done over here. And, you know, sometimes I screw up and I forget to do things. And he is so patient with me. And so thank you, Brandon, for always being patient with me. You guys, when I was pregnant, I'm not sure how he tolerated me. I forgot everything. Like, really, I was pretty bad. And he just rolled with it. He was patient. It was amazing. And to all of you guys, all of you who have sent me messages, and it takes me forever sometimes to respond, know how much I love you and how much when I get these messages, I cry like 99% of the time when I get these messages. And, you know, I don't know what it is about, you know, actually I'm figuring it out. And that's one of the things I want to talk about today. I had a revelation today about what's going on with this whole concept of impatience. And here's the deal. Here's what I've done my whole life. I'm always like, or was, I've had the experience of, right? I'm not telling that story anymore. But in my life experience, I've always been focused on where I am going, right? Not where I'm at. And so, especially earlier in life, starting to work full time, and actually even earlier when I was in school, I always had this mentality of like, gotta go. Remember that? I think it's a toilet paper commercial from the early 2000s, and it was the theme song, gotta go right now. And that was really me. It just gotta go. And I have been told for years now, like from psychics in my own regression sessions, that I am walking with blinders, that I am just so focused on where I'm going that I'm not paying attention to everything that's around me. And here's what I realized today. That's because I'm being so impatient. And I don't even realize that I'm doing this, that I'm not settling into the present moment, because there are moments where I'm very present. Those moments where you can relax and life is easier. But in those moments where you have to get to work or you're going somewhere and things happen, like traffic or waiting in lines or you're running late, that's where you can get really impatient. And this is where my issues have always arisen. And lately, this has come up for me big time. And I notice it a lot driving, that I'm getting really impatient with other drivers, whether they're not driving properly, if there's such a thing, or, well, there is such a thing. But, you know, according to me and my standards, right? Like, what is that? But I've been finding myself getting impatient waiting in grocery store lines. And so the minute I noticed this the other day, of course, I pull into a parking lot and immediately I'm having to wait, which is causing me to say to myself, okay, have some patience, right? And then I'm just trying to run into the store really quickly because, of course, I don't have any time. Really, where do I need to be? I was rushing, but for what? I don't even know. And so I go in the store and I just want to be in and out. And of course, I try to find the shortest line because being impatient, I don't like to wait in lines. And I get behind what I think is going to be the shortest line. And there's a sweet older lady in front of me and she's buying a bunch of cereal for her grandkids. And she's so sweet. But of course, there's like a problem with how much it costs and they were supposed to be on sale. And so, you know, it turned into the whole thing where it took a whole lot longer. And I just said to myself, you're going to stand here and you're going to be patient. There's no other reaction that you're even allowed to have at this moment. And it was so sweet because the lady, after she was done, she turned to me and she was like, I'm so sorry. Thank you for being patient. And I was like, that's really, this is a good thing for me because I need to work on my patience. So thank you for allowing me to do that. And I'm not sure if I should have said that, but I was just very appreciative of that happening. I didn't want her to feel bad. And then the lady at the checkout said, well, that's a good way to look at it. And I was like, you know what? I really need to do this more often, as this is an opportunity for me to work on my patience. Like one time I remember, speaking of driving again, and I was getting impatient of some slow driver in front of me. And my daughter was little. So back then I was like worse. I would say things out loud. Now it's more like I think about it and then I realize what I'm doing. But I'm still doing it, right? It was just worse before. So she said to me, as I was getting impatient with this driver, she said, Mom, there is probably a grandma in that car. And I'm like, yeah, perspective. Somebody posted something earlier about a conversation they had with their child. And I just thought, like, from the mouths of babes, exactly. Our children are our greatest teachers. And my goodness, she taught me something then. Of course, it's taken me a little while to learn it. I'm still learning it, but it's a really good thing to think about. There's a person in that car. That's somebody's mother, that's somebody's grandmother, that's somebody's grandpa, that's somebody's sister, that's somebody's child. Might be learning to drive. You never know. And the thing is about being impatient and not paying attention to the whole of where you are and being appreciative for that moment is because divine timing is just set up exactly for us. And what if we're supposed to be standing in that line to be giving our love and our light to all of those people standing around us? What if that we just happen to go to the store when it's the most crowded and busy time because we need to share our love and our light with that many people? And what if that we were being so impatient and allowing that to irritate us that we weren't able to do our job of spreading our love, because instead we're being impatient and irritated? So this is something that I really checked myself on lately. Like, knock it off. You're not doing your job. And it's completely unacceptable because, you're going to get there in the same time as you would have. The situation is going to remain what it is. And you can either be peaceful in it or you can be irritated and ruin the whole experience, right? So this is what I keep reminding myself of now every time I'm impatient. It just means I'm not being in the moment. And so I look around and notice and pay attention and be aware of what's going on. And, I think that when we're present in the moment and aware of everything that's going on around us, it makes it easier, usually, to find the love in the moment. It helps us see a broader perspective. And, when I think about this concept of patience, that Bible verse, of course, from Corinthians keeps coming up. Love is patient. It's the first definition. When they're defining love, love is patient. And it just makes a whole lot of sense, doesn't it? So I found this Wayne Dyer clip. It's called The Magic of Patience. And what I thought was interesting when I first started listening to it, what he first starts talking about is essentially the concept of what I was talking about yesterday, which was our multidimensional selves. The fact that we are creator, we are never separate from creator or creation, and we are everything right now. So he starts off this discussion about patience with talking about that. Take a listen.
Previously, I talked a great deal about trust and about this knowing and about shifting your perceptions out of this idea that somehow you are separate from the divine intelligence that is universal. The obvious thing to remember about a universal intelligence is that if it's universal, it is in all places. Therefore, it is in all that you want and all that you are. And so manifesting is the ability to realign your intention with that divine intelligence and know that it will show up. But one of the things that we have a tendency to do as individuals is to become impatient. Our ego says to us, I want what I want, and I want it now. And we have a tendency to try to tell the universal intelligence, or to tell God, or the metaphor that I used earlier as God is like the ocean and we are like a glass. And so we are really a glass of God, if you will. We are a piece of God. But when you separate yourself, one little drop of water separated from the ocean alone literally can't make anything happen, is very weak and so on. And it is only when you unite yourself with that ocean, when that drop of water becomes united with the ocean, it can do anything. It is part of the universal. When you unite yourself with this divine intelligence instead of separating yourself from it, then you know that this ocean will provide. It will provide for you in precisely the right way that it is supposed to, and in exactly the right time. There's a wonderful poet that I have quoted in this program several times, and I want to quote him again. His name is Rumi. Well, Rumi wrote back in the early part of the 13th century. His poetry is still quoted today, and it's something that I would recommend you look at. Jalaluddin Rumi. And he had a poem that is called The Servant Who Loved His Prayers. And I'd like to share that with you as I talk about this idea of detaching from the outcome and letting go of your need to make something happen as you demand it to happen. It's called The Servant Who Loved His Prayers. At dawn, a certain rich man wanted to go to the steam bath. He woke his servant, Sungkwar. Ho, get moving, get the basin and the towels and the clay for washing, and let's go to the bath. Sungkwar immediately collected what was needed, and they set out side by side along the road. As they passed the mosque, the call to prayer sounded. Sungkwar loved his 5 times prayer. Please, Master, rest on this bench for a while, that I may recite Surah 98, which begins, You who treat your slave with kindness. The master sat on the bench outside while Sungkwar went in. When prayers were over and the priest and all the worshippers had left, still Sungkwar remained inside. The master waited and waited. Finally he yelled into the mosque, Sungkwar, why don't you come out? I can't. This clever one won't let me out. Have a little more patience. I hear you out there. 7 times the master waited, and then shouted. Sungkwar's reply was always the same. Not yet. He won't let me come out yet. But there's no one in there but you. Everyone else has left. Who makes you sit still so long? The one who keeps me in here is the one who keeps you out there. The same who will not let you in will not let me out. The ocean will not allow its fish out of itself, nor does it let land animals in where the subtle and delicate fish move. The land creatures lumber along on the ground. No cleverness can change this. There's only one opener for the lock of these matters. Forget your figuring. Forget yourself. Listen to your friend. When you become totally obedient to that one, you'll be free. Rumi. And this idea of knowing that divine intelligence will work in exactly the order and the preference and the time that it is supposed to In the Course in Miracles, there's this often quoted passage that says, infinite patience produces immediate results. And it sounds like it's a contradiction, doesn't it? It sounds like a paradox. If I'm patient, infinitely patient, then I will have to wait a very long time. You know, I talked earlier about these tomato seeds that we used to plant, and how the essence of tomato-ness was in every aspect of that tomato, and yet that very essence was something that isn't in the physical world at all. The cause of tomato, as we discover and we look at those seeds and we look at the dust that's in the seeds, and then we try to find out what's in the dust, and ultimately we find out that there's just an energy in there. There's just a wave. There's something that's invisible to the naked eye. There's something that doesn't even exist in a physical world. There are no particles at all. You see, when you're a child, you think like a child, as it says in Corinthians 13. And I can remember as a child when those tomato shoots surfaced above the ground sometime in June, back there in Mount Clemens, and they would come up about 4 or 5 inches above the ground. I remember one time getting down there and looking at those tomato shoots and trying to hurry them along. And I got down on my knees and I started tugging at them as a little boy, maybe 3 or 4 years old. And I remember Mrs. Scarf saying, no, you can't do that. And I was like trying to hurry it along. And this idea of attempting to hurry along the divine intelligence is something that we do with our egos all the time. Obviously, creation reveals its secrets by and by, as it is supposed to, as it is ordained. And when you get down there and start tugging at those shoots, and I remember pulling at one, and I pulled one just a little bit too hard because they're still not firmly entrenched. They don't have very long roots, tomato plants. You can pull them out with hardly any effort at all. And I pulled one right out into my hand, and that was the end of that tomato. There was no possibility because I was attempting to do something that interferes. This principle of detaching ourselves from outcome, along with having infinite patience, is really essential to your manifestation process. It is inconsistent with what we have a tendency to think is the way things should be working. Because if I do everything that I'm supposed to, if I follow all of these principles and I set down all of the rules and I get it all organized, then I expect that I'll have results. That's the time in our lives that I referred to earlier in the very first principle of being the warrior, going from the athlete to the warrior. That's the time in our lives when we set our goals. And there's nothing wrong with setting goals. I've written about it and talked about it on many programs right here at Nightingale Conant and in many of my books. But the idea of thinking that setting goals and then just going about and having them show up is still the thinking that keeps us sort of stuck back at the warrior phase of our development. It inhibits us from moving to higher places wherein we can begin to manage the coincidences of our lives, which sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? If it's a coincidence, you can't manage it. If you're managing it, then it's not a coincidence. But when you begin to transcend some of these paradoxes, when you reach a higher level. So setting goals is one thing, and it's something that we do in the earlier stages of our spiritual development. And we continue to do it. And these stages that I talked about earlier are not things that we go into and then never go back to. We go back, we come out of it, we go back. We're always moving in and out of these stages. The question is, what is my primary emphasis? Is my primary emphasis not only on setting goals, but in falling in love with those goals, and then insisting that those goals show up when I want them to show up? That is inconsistent with manifestation. and with spirituality and higher consciousness. What you have to do is have your goals, which is what a tomato seed is. It's really a goal for tomatoes. But you have to then relax and turn your thoughts and your ideas and your consciousness and your awareness to your own purpose and know in your heart that it will manifest. You see, the key to relaxing about what it is that you would like to see manifested is the certainty of the outcome. If you have a certainty, as it says in the Course in Miracles, if you have a certainty of the outcome, patience is easy. If you are uncertain of the outcome, if you're not sure how it's going to work out, or if things are going to fall into place the way you would like them to, if you have that uncertainty, then you will not be able to be patient. So patience, infinite patience, is really like a trusting in God. And when you trust in God, you're trusting in the wisdom that created you. And when you trust in the wisdom that created you, you're trusting in yourself as well. Because you can never be separate from that wisdom. So patience and trust and awareness and higher consciousness are absolutely essential.
Infinite patience. Sounds good. Sounds good to me. That's really just trusting in God, he said, and the wisdom that created us. That also means trusting in ourselves because we are not separate from God, from creation. We are everything. So infinite patience is all we really have, isn't it? And when we understand this, he was talking about manifestation. This is how we manifest, by just aligning with this oneness, with the divine intelligence, instead of aligning with what our ego says. That's when we become impatient with the I want what I want and I want it now. And a lot of these things are so silly. Like I want to be out of this store in 5 minutes just because I want to. For what, right? Like sometimes there's a reason, but we will always be where we are supposed to be when we are supposed to be there. Because when we are aligned, the divine timing always provides. Did you know? I loved that analogy of the ocean of God, and that God is an ocean and we are a drop. That by ourselves, seen as separate, one drop has no power. It can't do very much. But together, all is one. That's when we are immensely powerful. And when we see that, we own our power. And when we're completely in tune with this, we know that the divine will work out everything in the timing that it's supposed to. That everything happens when it's supposed to. Always. There's always a reason. Like, for instance, I missed my plane coming home from Mount Shasta. And right at the time that my plane was supposed to be landing, my daughter sent me a text that said, "Mom, please tell me you're not on a plane right now." There was a huge storm. Like, she was calling it a hurricane. It was a big monsoon. But that would have made a pretty difficult landing. Everyone was fine. But, you know, maybe I wasn't supposed to be on that plane. So I wasn't. And we were late. And that was okay. Because everything works out in divine timing. There's always a reason. We're always being guided. Always being protected. How about that analogy of the tomato seed? With the very essence of the tomato is in that seed, but yeah, not yet in this world. That essence, it's energy, it's a wave, it's not physical, which means there are no particles in this physical world. And we can't harry a tomato along in its growth process, right? Just like we can't harry a late flight, right? We can't hurry up through the traffic. And if we do, we could possibly cause harm to ourselves or possibly even worse to others, right? And what's the point? What's the point of not being patient in those moments? We're going to get there when we're supposed to get there. Creation reveals its secrets by and by. There is a reason you're in the place at that time. And if we look around and we pay attention to it, we will see it. And this is the thing that I realized today that my higher self has been trying to tell me for years. And I didn't get it until I listened to this today. It's like this light bulb went off and I understood that my higher self has been telling me to just be in the moment and know that it's always the right time and it's always the right place. And there is no gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. You don't always need to go somewhere. You need to just be in this moment. Like I don't need to pull on the tomato to make things happen faster, because in doing that, I cause harm. I completely interfere with the divine timing. Get out of my own way, right? By doing this, we can get out of our own ways. Allow the divine to handle it. Why would we do anything else? It's like silly when you think about it. Allow the divine to handle it. And that involves trusting. Remember, the goal of the tomato seed is always the tomato, but the seed doesn't worry about it. It just knows. It just knows it's going to be a tomato because that's its divine plan. And we all have one. And so if we relax into that, into our own purpose of our own divine plan, and just know that it will manifest because we are being divinely guided and that the universe has our back, and we are not separate from it, and that every single infinite possibility in this ocean is available to us. And also remember, that little tomato plant, how does it grow? Towards the light. Always, always toward the light. So that means we see the love in every moment and we trust. We have that infinite patience. Really means that we are trusting in God, in the Creator, in the universe, in the wisdom that we are created from. And it means we are trusting ourselves because we are one with it. That's all for me today, y'all. I am going to leave you with a song today. This is Alienario, Take It Slow. Till next time, love you all.
And if you're feeling the call to come for a week retreat-style Mystic Manor immersion, remember to go now and book your time to speak with me directly about stepping into the optimistic vortex at calendly.com/talkwithbrandon while there are still spots left. Otherwise, I look forward to co-creating magic with you at the Mystic Manor.
Take it slow. Don't get in your way, keep it moving. At the pace of every weather, look within. And don't forget you are surrounded by the wind. As it rushes in your lungs, oh honey, you are part of the moon, precious cave. Don't forget there is unknown inside you. Don't turn away from yourself by being like somebody else. You are tide crashing over and call of the mountains in the darkest tunnels, where your light comes from. So take it slow. What you long for is on its way, and don't stop reaching. Taste the sound of every color deep within. Let your wild be uncaged, run with the wind and rush into its lungs. Oh honey, you are born of the moon, precious cave. Don't forget there is unknown inside you. Don't turn away from yourself by being like somebody else. You are tide crashing over and call of the mountains and your darkest tunnels. Where your light come from, oh, aim for the journey and grow with the night. Be brave in your loving, keep steady your side. Oh, honey, you are born of the moon, precious cave. Don't forget there is unknown inside you. Don't turn away from yourself by being like somebody else. Don't turn away from yourself by being like somebody else. Don't turn away. Don't turn away. Don't turn away. Don't turn away. You are tide crashing over and call of the mountains and your darkest tunnels. Where your light come, don't turn away. Don't turn away.